And greetings, everyone. I promise not to PowerPoint you to death, but for fun, I wanted to start out by talking about the beloved Golden Gate Bridge. Let's play a little game. For those of you who have visited the famous bridge, or even those of you who have seen it in pictures, I want you to close your eyes just for a minute and revel in the memory of its grandness. Please keep your eyes closed, play along, don't cheat. Just imagine while I tell you a few facts about the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge. So an earthquake struck it before it was even finished. The bridge's orange color was originally intended just to be a primer. It cost 50 cents each way to cross the bridge in 1937. It took 30 years to remove the lead-based paint from the bridge, and a safety net below the bridge saved the lives of 19 men during construction. This was an innovation that had never been thought of before and cost the builders $130,000 in 1937, which would equate to about $2.5 million in today's market. Something to think about. Now, if you don't mind, entertain me just for a minute longer. Slowly open your eyes, because I know you weren't cheating, and take a look at this guy hanging onto the cable. Stay with me here, as I promise my story has a point. Think about the trials and tribulations of building this engineering marvel. Can you imagine just for a minute to be on the crew who's banding together the giant cables that suspend the bridge itself? Now also imagine what it took to get this bridge built. All of the materials, labor, subcontractors, and we won't even talk about the money it must have cost to build the bridge. Oh, we're just rolling through things here. So I would like for you to just also think about the trials and tribulations of being alive in 1937. As we're thinking about this. Coming to today's discussion, first let me introduce myself. My name is Misty Palek. I've been in construction accounting for the past 24 years, and I've assisted many clients who need to know the next step for their organization. I'm the Implementations and Solution Manager for a group known as Client Accounting Advisory Services, or CAAS as we lovingly refer to it now. Now to introduce you to my co-host and mentor, John Gallo, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. As Misty said, I'm John Gallo, and I head up the National Construction Group for UHY Advisors. We are a financial, tax, and consulting firm. You know, our client accounting services group that Misty's a part of has been around for a few years now, and their growth has been incredible. We couldn't be more impressed. They are really knocking it out of the park. And with the addition of Misty to our team, with her vast knowledge of construction industry experience, we are strongly positioned to help out construction clients that are in need of assistance, whether it's with your existing accounting records or accounting bookkeeping, or just a need to transition to the next level. You know, a lot of times clients find themselves in a position where some small accounting systems they have in place worked well for them, but now they're growing, quickly growing, and need to take it to that next level, and we can assist with that. So keep listening, as Misty has a lot to offer construction companies just like yourselves. Misty?
Great, thank you, John. Let's come back to the safety net idea on the Golden Gate Bridge just for a minute. Remember in my last slide how I mentioned that the idea of the safety net had never been considered before the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge. Can you imagine working on that bridge without having a safety net underneath you? I've been to the Golden Gate Bridge and it's pretty high up there. The safety net that Joseph Strauss, the engineer and architect on that bridge, insisted on having during construction saved the lives of 19 men overall. Now let's take it a step further in our thinking. In today's construction climate, we are all familiar with the safety regulations set forth by governance agencies like OSHA. But have you considered bringing some of these ideas back into your office? For example, do you have a safety net when COVID hits home? What if all your employees get sick and can't work? Are they able to work from home? I know it's a hard thought to avoid during this pandemic, but let's travel further down that line. So the pandemic that we did not plan for. Guess what, everyone? I can't believe it, but we made it through 2020, which is amazing when you think about it. All the trials and tribulations that this past year has brought to us has been pretty extraordinary. So if you think about it, it's a lot like the Impossible Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge was considered something that could never be done. So if you really think about it, no one saw the vision of the Golden Gate Bridge until it was built. Like nobody really had thought the process through. That it was one guy's idea and then he just made it happen. The pandemic has been that way for us. We're trying to fight something that we can't even visualize. We can't even see it. So there are, and there were many questions that still need to be answered with the pandemic. I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on television, but I can tell you from personal experience, COVID isn't fun and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Some of the things that we're seeing happen in the accounting world are things that, things need to be mobile and the ability to access your data at any place, anytime. What about outsourced accounting to help you get your staff or help you when your staff has COVID and can't return quick enough to get your people paid or your accounting done? John, what are some of the things that you've been seeing as the principal construction leader at UHY during this pandemic?
Yep. So, to be honest, with the governor's early on identifying construction as an essential industry, many construction companies actually did okay in 2020. Much of the work came from existing backlogs that they already had in place, which many clients are seeing a concern and may pose an issue in 2021. But for the most part, companies that quickly adapted to the changes that the pandemic brought were able to make it through 2020 pretty well. The changes that we've seen, such as project managers working remotely, working out in the field, and embracing technology, were really the assets to the contractor. Their ability to be in the field yet report back accounting information quickly and accurately was super key to keeping jobs moving along. And we all know you can't build a road remotely, right? But many project managers were able to work in the field remotely and to keep all their jobs moving along.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about who UHY is. So UHY LLP, operating in an alternative practice structure with UHY advisors, forms one of the largest professional services firms in the United States. While that scale might provide confidence for some of our clients, others tell us that our greatest value is the way that we bring the resources together to help address today's evolving business challenges. The next level of service is our philosophy towards serving our clients, our colleagues, our firm, and ourselves. It's also a state of being. When you deliver the next level of service, we're constantly striving, creating, and reaching outside the bounds of what others might expect. Simply stated, it means caring passionately about wowing those that we serve. So what's CAAS? CAAS is Client Accounting Advisory Service, as I lovingly referred to it earlier. But let's talk a little bit more about what is CAAS. UHY has an entire division devoted to client accounting advisory services, which transforms financial organizations with the right people, process, and technology. Businesses are asking UHY to help them move from outdated, on-premise, and labor-intensive processes towards new, efficient, automated systems. UHY takes an agnostic approach and customized approach to software and staffing solutions. We're not a solution provider for any one product. UHY meets with you, listens to your company's challenge, and recommends the best solution for your business size and need. We hear you. I want you to understand that we hear you. When you stop and look back at your company, are your people in the right seat? Are your processes as efficient as they need to be? And when you look back at your technology, does it ever do everything that you want it to? John, what are some of the things that you're seeing in the market today in construction?
So every year, a company has to improve to be faster, more efficient, and more accurate. And the pandemic, one of the things that it did do was it really forced companies to embrace technology, which actually is not a bad thing. So if there was some kind of silver lining to this pandemic, it would be that, it forced everybody to work a little harder, work a little better, and really kind of embrace technology. But it does raise the level that speed and information coming from your accounting department is needed. Previously, if you held a project meeting with, let's say, 6 people, they'd all have to drive to a specific location, coordinate the meeting, and then get back to your day after the meeting. Using virtual meetings we're doing today, whether it's a Zoom call or some other platform, significantly decreased the time allotted for meetings for all individuals. So that efficiency, really assists in moving things along and becoming more efficient and faster. So the technology, really embracing technology, has a lot of savings. So will we ever go back to 100% of how it used to be? Probably not in business, but maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Agreed. Yeah, I'd like to just share a little story about technology. When I worked in industry for so many years, we had several guys out in the field, and it was right when iPads first came out. So I guess it would have been in the early 2000s. And we were talking about getting everybody an iPad in the field so that they could do their time entry remotely. So it hadn't really been figured out. Like, all the bugs had not been figured out at that time. And one of my favorite superintendents of all time that I worked with for years and years and years, wonderful man. I gave him the iPad. I asked him to come into the office, and I said, okay, so everybody's getting an iPad, and I would like for you to do your time virtually, in the field. And he looked at the iPad and he turned it on. And then he said, is this an Etch-a-Sketch? Meaning the thing with the little, knobs that you draw on. And I immediately grabbed the iPad back and I said, you're not ready. So the technology has been there a long time, but I feel that the pandemic pivot really switched people's frame of mind as to using technology. So I kind of wonder if this superintendent was still out there in the world, would he consider the iPad an Etch-a-Sketch now? Or would he be like, okay, I get it now, like with the times. So yeah, I totally understand the technology piece is challenging for construction companies, especially. Yeah, okay. So that's kind of what CAAS is. Let's talk about a little bit of case studies, just to kind of show you how we could really help your organization. So some contractors, they just simply need bookkeeping help. Others need migration to a new accounting system. For example, we have a general contractor, just as a case study. They do about $13 million in annual sales, have about 45 employees. They recently migrated from Sage 50, which is the old Peachtree product, to a product called Sage 100 Contractor. These are both on-prem solutions, so they're not cloud solutions, but they're both very valuable and have their own purposes. The biggest advantage to the conversion was increased confidence and quicker turnaround with their financials. They were having a real difficult time getting the job costing that they needed to report to their stakeholders. So they successfully mitigated risk. They controlled job costs and have real-time and accurate view of their financial health of the company. Sage 100 Contractor also includes a full payroll functionality as well as expense and KPI management. Again, CAAS is really software agnostic, but these are just some case studies to give you an idea of how a technology transformation could really help your organization. Another one we had was a startup construction company. They turned to UHY for software recommendation to help run their growing business. Through the successful implementation of a Quickbooks Online, the team is now able to automate accounting tasks, manage cash, and run payroll processing with job costing, no less. That's actually a new feature in Quickbooks Online, which is pretty fascinating. And now they're starting to get into things called tags. And for the younger generation, that means hashtags. For the older generation, that's the pound sign on the phone, just so you know. And then brand new to the market, what we're seeing an influx of recently was Sage Intacct for Construction. This is a product that was released by Sage in February of 2020 and is being dubbed the next generation of accounting systems in the construction industry. So they're having early adopters, they're finding faster access to real-time construction financial and operation data, streamlining of their processes. If you have multiple entities to keep track of, it's a great program to use. And it also has something called dimensional accounting, which kind of goes back to the tag idea. So that it comes with 9 different tags that you can utilize to keep track of things like jobs, cost codes, cost types, all those kinds of things. Sage Intacct for Construction will ultimately be the replacement for Sage 300 CRE. Sage is working towards that model and sunsetting that product at some point. So we've seen a big influx of just transition over to that new product. It is new, still has some bugs, but it's been around since the 90s. Sage, just so you know, is great at buying programs that already exist and are successful and then putting their name on them. So if you remember that the Sage 300 CRE, which it's now called, used to be called the old Timberline product, which probably many of you have used and are probably still on. So just something to think about with program and technology changes, everybody's sort of going to the cloud. We also had a commercial general contractor with 50 employees, and they had about $50 million in annual revenue. They struggled with hiring and retaining accounts payable staff. And I know this one personally. And the reason I feel that they struggled was because they process 350 at least every single month of subcontractor AIA forms. So that's a ginormous amount of AP processing. And, you know, long-term, it's hard to keep people interested in just, you know, processing these AP bills day in and day out. So it became challenging for them to keep anybody. So after training 4 or 5 people and those people leaving, UHY was able to just take on the work ourselves and actually do the AP for them. So the CAAS department, you know, really helped them figure out a bridge gap between what their office had and then what we could provide. So we ended up saving them more than $100,000 a year. I'd like to stress that because it's pretty impressive. Just because we knew what we were doing and we could retain those people, right? So we had access to their system. We're able to process their AP as it comes in. We also gave them some custom reports that really just helped with their job cost, payroll, and equipment allocation. So those are just a few examples to kind of inspire you of ways that CAAS can help you in construction. There's so many options out there right now with integration systems, project management software. There's so much happening in the construction industry. And John's right, you know, with the fact that construction actually did pretty well in 2020. Surprisingly, they were considered essential. And what I have found interesting with that comment was, you know, we spent years as a homeowners putting up walls, like putting up walls or taking down walls, you know, and so the times kind of have rolled through that process. And now we're all about this open concept in our house. We're going to take down the walls. And so we can have an open concept transitioning from our dining room to our living room. Then COVID hits. And we're all like, I can't work at my dining room table anymore. This is very frustrating. I have no doors to close. I have dogs and kids running in the background, running amok, you know, all the things that happen at home on a daily basis. So it became really a upbeat progression for home remodelers. I've seen a huge boom in the home remodeling business because they're putting up those walls that we've spent years taking down. They're building in-home offices now, which I just kind of find ironic in some ways. It's like, yeah, well, this is just a great influx. And also I've seen a lot of rebuilding of offices or retrofitting offices to be COVID safe. You know, they're putting up partitions and plexiglass walls and all of that kind of stuff. So John's right. I've seen a big influx in construction in the past year. So it's even more challenging to, you know, keep up with your books and keep up with your people and your process and your technology. So, you know, we're kind of in the slower season right now, which is great. It's a great time to think about these changes and transitioning into something new.
So Misty, can you go back real quick?
Sure.
So if somebody listening in today, watching today, had questions like the pros and cons of Sage 100 versus QuickBooks Online, could they reach out to you and would you be open to have a little discussion with them to kind of see what really, you know, fits for them?
Absolutely, John. And so what my department is really good at is doing a business analyst case. So normally when I get pulled in, it's on the technology side, but we usually, you know, will come in and do a full business review. We'll talk about all of your processes, all of your people, all of your technology, and then we'll do what's called a summary of findings. So we'll pull together a summary of findings, which really, you know, recommends a certain kind of software over another software based on what you told us. So we do offer full business reviews if that's something you need help with. But if you're just like, well, I think I've outgrown QuickBooks Online. I'm ready for the next step, but I'm not quite ready for Intact, because Intact is kind of the mother of all of these. So there are steps that we can help you take and do a fair comparison. What's the best solution for you? And that's the beauty of UHY being agnostic to one software versus another, is because we only want to provide the best solution for the client. It's not about us, getting a kickback from Sage or QuickBooks Online or anything. It's about providing the right solution for the client. And somebody asked a question, do we work with small business? Absolutely. Yep. There's no one too big or too small. We work with a lot of individuals. We work with a lot of, oh, I just got this, I just started my own business. We get a lot of those, startup businesses are a thing. And I had a construction company just reach out to me recently. They broke off from their main company and they just started a office remodeling company. And so it's two guys. It should be a sitcom. It's two guys in Sage and a contractor, but they're off and running. So we absolutely do work with all sorts of sizes. That was a good question.
Yes. So I did see that question and I appreciate it. Many of our clients, many of my personal clients really started as startups. And UHY is very scalable so that, we can handle a startup and you'd be dealing with a Misty and I to start when you're that small. And then as companies grow, I have companies that have grown into, $30, $50 million companies where they need a team because they need that, more support. They're having a audited financial statement along with tax work, along with consulting on your business. So that's the great part about UHY is that we can handle somebody really small starting out, and then we can grow with you, right? As your needs grow, we have the resources to grow with you, to handle you for a while, and that's really great. And that that's one of the best parts about what I do is when I see my clients succeed. I feel like I'm part of that a little bit, and it makes me feel good. So, like I said, yeah, nothing's too small, nothing's too large. Really, we can support a wide range of clients.
I totally agree with that, John. It's really nice to watch the flowers blossom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Okay, so let's just dive a little bit deeper. So let's talk about people. People are my favorite thing. I'll just be honest. I absolutely adore people. I just enjoy meeting new people. I'm a personable person, I guess. I just like people. They're fun. They can also be challenging. So that's a thing too. But why would you even consider outsourcing your back office accounting? When you think about it, outsourced accounting saves money, reduces overhead. And how does it accomplish this? And here's a little fact for you. Did you know that companies typically spend 2 to 5% of their revenues to properly train their accounting staff? And I know that doesn't seem like much when you consider an example, but think about this. The annual cost of a staff accountant with benefits typically ranges $50,000 to $75,000 per year. A typical outsourced and sometimes more experienced accountant might run you in the range of $25,000 to $30,000 a year. So if you did the math, which hopefully you've all thought about that, but with the annual cost savings of around 60%, that's pretty big, right? So just one example of cost savings with outsourced versus employees. What about experience? What about experience? When you're outsourcing your accounting, you are getting an accumulation of everybody's experience. Like, for example, at UHY, you are getting years and years of accumulated experience amongst multiple people that could really help you instead of you trying to have to reinvent the wheel. And I'm not saying that there's not a time and a place for people who are inexperienced or just starting out. But I'm saying when you outsource your accounting to somebody that you can trust, you're getting all of their experience with that trust. Okay, so do you think the original investors of the Golden Gate Bridge would have considered hiring an engineer that didn't have experience? I mean, when we go back to the Golden Gate Bridge, it's not likely. So think about the experience that you're getting for less money. It seems sort of like a no-brainer to me, like you're getting more experience, less money, and think about life-work balance, especially during COVID, right? You know, I know that I actually rent an office outside of my home because I don't really want to work at home, and it's kind of crazy there for me. So I liked that feature or that ability to do that because I like my work-life balance. You know, I don't really like to intermingle the two. But if you're currently one person show and you're tired of spending your life not being able to be the marketing department, the HR department, the engineering department, the accounting department, doing something all by yourself, when it's time to take your life back, it's time to outsource at least your accounting. It's something to think about. Like, it's important to have work-life balance. And this is one of the ways that you can get some stuff off of your plate and let the professionals handle it. So let's talk about, wouldn't it be nice to get your financials on time and all your reporting? I mean, that would be great, right? Because that's usually the complaint that I hear the most. I just can't get my financials on time. I just can't, you know, so it's kind of funny to me. Well, I'm going to take a little poll, and this isn't like fancy Zoom poll, but we're just going to kind of take a little poll here. How many days does it take you to get your financials done each month? I just want you to think about this. Is it 10 days? Is it 15, 20, or 45 days? So I just want you to think about when you're looking at your financials, and, you know, sometimes that's one person, sometimes it's you, the owner, sometimes it's, you know, a whole staff of people, depending on your company size. But how long is it taking you to get your financials each month? So I found the answer to this, according to Google anyways, that it's 15 days. I was so impressed with that. I was like, does that really happen? I want to know these companies that they're polling to say it's only 15 days, because most of the time, you know, I see 20, I see 45, I see 60 days, you know, so it's really out there. But when you're thinking about that, it just seems crazy. So on average, it takes 15 days for companies to turn around the financials within their organization. Hard to believe, in my opinion. Okay, so based on the virtual poll, then the average of 15 days to get your financials prepared. Are you now thinking internally, what are we doing that's wrong to elongate this process? What on earth is taking so long? You know, is it people? Is it your process? Is it your technology? What are the things that you're thinking internally that is elongating this process, right? It could be your processes are no longer efficient. You know, maybe at one time when we all had, you know, general ledger, the old green book, we used to call it, and we had T accounts, and we would, you know, run our ledger in this old fashioned green book. It could be that, you know, hey, that's outdated, and you're maybe doing your accounting on Etch-a-Sketch, like my friend, the superintendent. But when you think about your processes, you know, everything has to evolve. I mean, it's just inevitable. Everything has to evolve, and we have to sort of keep up with the Joneses, if you will, to make sure that our processes are as efficient as they possibly can be. So something to think about, you know, are you keeping stuff outside the system? How many spreadsheets do you have outside the system? And I'm not saying that I don't love Excel like the next person. I really, really do. And I'm fabulous at Excel. But I really enjoy having one source of truth instead of a million spreadsheets. So I'm really, really focused on, you know, getting everything we need out of one system. If we have to have more than one system, I like to integrate the two in some manner so that there's really one source of truth. That's really my motto in life. Let's have one source of truth instead of all over the place. So John, what are some tips and tricks that you'd like to share to get your financials done in a more timely manner?
Sure. So Misty's absolutely right in that 15-day turnaround for financials every month is a bit aggressive. I don't really see that all that often with my clients. And some of the things that I find is that when I ask them, are you doing monthly financials? Their response is no, because by the time the financial gets done, we're already like into the next month or even into the following month. So it's kind of a useless exercise. So, you know, I would challenge clients and customers that believe that that is an actual fact. So some of the things that we do, or we suggest our clients do, is the information for accounting and project managers has to be critical and timely so that management can make good business decisions. That's really the key, is the financial statements are the roadmap for the management team to say, hey, how are jobs going, right? Is a job going sideways? You don't want to find out a job went sideways when the job's completed. It's too late. You want to be able to jump in while you can see that trend to say, what's going on, and let's fix it. So timely financials are super critical. So on the accounting side, throughout the year, maybe you cut off your accounting 6 days, 8 days into the month, and then you start that closing process to hit that the 15th day mark or the 20th day mark to have timely financials. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to miss some things. Some things are going to trickle in that really should have been posted in that month, let's say March or April, right? That's not going to get into the month. And that's okay. If you capture 85, 90% of all the accounting, you're going to be okay, because you're going to kind of true that up the next month. Now, of course, at the end of the year, that's where you really have to wait and make sure that everything comes in, because you have to have a complete year. But to quickly turn around monthly financials or even quarterly financials, so your management team has that data so they can make decisions, sometimes you have to give a little on the amount of data that you're capturing to get them something that they can use. So that's one of the things that we suggest is really kind of during the months, not the year end, not at December, but during the months, you actually cut off when you say, okay, I'm going to stop entering payables, and if any other payable comes in, we can always put it into the next month, just to get out that speed of those financials to the management team. As well as project managers. You should be talking to project managers, every month on where jobs stand. What are those estimates to complete the job? One of the biggest things that we see when we talk to clients is that we put a budget in, and if the budget is $1 million and we spent 500,000 of that $1 million, we must be 50% complete. And I challenge that because you might have spent $500,000, but it might take another $1 million to actually complete the job. So talking to your project manager to say, well, how much is this really going to cost to complete the job? That gives you a better estimate of where you're at and the cost to complete than just taking, the mathematical difference of the original budget that you started out with and where the job stands today. That's really key. You really need to get with your project managers and talk to say, where do these jobs really stand? What's a realistic number to complete the job? So those are a couple things that we suggested to construction companies to really hone in at. And I can't stress enough how project managers have to communicate in a timely manner with the accounting department, because you guys have to go hand in hand and have to be in sync.
That is so accurate, John. So accurate. And my old adage of garbage in, garbage out, guys. So if you're going to put garbage into the system, guess what you're getting out? Garbage. So I think it's really important to have open communication with your project managers, because they're the ones in the field. They're the ones that know how the project is running. Because John's absolutely right. Looking at the system as an accountant, I could go, hey, based on cost, we're 50% complete. So I should build 50%, make sure that I'm billed 50%. When really, how are they doing their projections to figure out, are we going to make any money on this job? Are we looking good? Are we going to come in under budget?
Right.
Maybe I could spread some of the money around in different cost codes just so I could kind of accommodate, the budget rearranging. I'm always telling my project managers that budget is your best friend, and you need to be scrubbing that and paying attention to it constantly. I sometimes refer to it, that's your baby. You need to change its diapers. You need to take care of it, make sure it's got a good babysitter, that's your kid. You need to take care of that baby, because it is really,
Yeah,
really
and
important.
where it really comes to light when, I talk to clients is when there's a lot of job fade, job. So the job's, percolating along, and we're reviewing the job, and the job's, 60% in, and everything seems great. And, oh yeah, based on the project manager, this job should be hitting their, whatever it is, 20% margin, 12% margin, whatever that margin is. And it's in alignment, and it's only a couple percentage, either they're doing a little better or they're doing a little worse, but it's online. Then when that job finally finishes and all the costs get recorded, all of a sudden there's this huge job fade at the end of the job, and then everybody's looking around going, well, what happened? Well, we didn't plan for this change order and this other thing, and the pipe burst, we had to replace that ourselves, and extra costs or whatever. But that's because you're not looking at the job as the job progresses. And that's why you have to challenge those project managers to say, okay, what's the real cost to finish this job? That's where you get the disconnect between my job on my WIP that is progressing month to month or quarter until the job finishes, and then the actual final result.
100% agree with that. That's such a challenging thing for sure. Yeah, I see a lot of too, just to mention, does your company have a job closeout procedure? Because I run into that a lot, which is kind of fascinating, with people like, say, for instance, Sage 100 Contractor, just to give you an example. In the software, you have the functionality of just marking a job closed. Like, okay, I'm going to change the status from open to closed. Okay, job done. But that doesn't really close out the job. You should really reconcile your jobs too. Not only for historical, to look back and go, hey, we've got this other job. It's a hotel or a bridge or whatever it might be. And it's similar to a job that we did in the past. You should be able to look in the past and go, how did we come out on that job? What were the things that we should watch out for on this new job because of the old job's information? Maybe there was a special kind of asphalt that you could have bought this time that you couldn't buy last time. So it's important to keep track of those milestones or those key performance indicators so you can progressively get better. I mean, that's the whole goal in life is, just to get better and better and better and better and better until you've perfected it, right? That's also the definition of insanity probably, but just on a side note there. But yeah, you're so true. So, thinking about processes, what about a job closeout process? Making sure that your jobs are actually reconciled, that the budget has been adjusted appropriately, that you have no retention left, you have no subcontracts, no purchase orders, everything went as planned. How are you closing out that job? And that could also include things like, we've got a punch list and we've got to make sure that all the punch list items are done and all the change orders are billed for. And you should be scrubbing those jobs constantly, babysitting them, making sure that they're done accurately. But that's just kind of one process. And people are like, well, Misty, that doesn't really affect the financials. Oh, very much so. Very much so. It does affect the financials because in accounting, we're always curious, as a company whole, how are we doing? What's our backlog? When the workers' comp people come knocking at the door and they're like, well, how many subcontractors did you pay last year so that we can, jack up your rates for workers' comp? How many certificates of insurance did you get for those subcontractors? So all of those things are part of your processes, your day-to-day processes. So what I'm trying to say is it doesn't have to be financial or accounting that you come to UHY for thought leadership. That's what we call that, is thought leadership. Us being able to look at all your processes and go, okay, Betty is really good at accounting, but she's not so strong a project manager. Maybe we need to introduce them to, that maybe she just needs training. Or you don't have a job closeout procedure. What are we doing for that? Just us being able to help you think through things. It doesn't have to be just financial and accounting. We're good at other things too. That's really all I'm trying to stress. Okay, so let's jump over to my favorite subject, which is technology. So, okay. So people ask me, when is, somebody just asked in the chat window, they have a certain kind of software. Would a software upgrade, change be necessary to work with UHY? Absolutely not. We're software agnostic, you know, and we pride ourselves in being able to learn whatever software is thrown at us. You know, we have a whole software arsenal, as I call it, probably because I can't think of something better, but we have an arsenal where we keep track of this is this software in a non-partial way. So we're not, you know, favoring one software over another. We just know all the capabilities of these software so that we can recommend the best solution for our clients. That's really what it's about. You know, of just being able to say, well, you know, Sage 100 Contractor can do this, but Foundation can do this, or NetSuite can do this, or whatever of the program, Acumatica. There are a million ERP systems out there. There are also a million project management softwares out there, you know, and so we talk about the integrations. How do they integrate with if you've got Intact for construction? So if you're starting to ask yourself some questions like, well, the cost to operate Sage 50, for example, just keeps going up and up and up. Maybe your software is out of date, it keeps getting slower and slower. You know, when you're backups at night, hopefully you're doing backups if you have an on-prem server. If your backups of your ERP system are taking an hour or 2 hours, something's wrong. That's a great indicator that my data is too big, I need to clean up my act. So I help a lot of companies through that transition of like, well, maybe we need to move to the cloud. Maybe we need to archive your company. Maybe we need to get rid of some of these jobs, you know, like ways to clean up your stuff so that your backups shouldn't take more than a half hour just for your ERP software. If it's taking that long, something's up. What about, can my employees work remotely? Are you relying on a veteran IT person? So if you've got one IT person that knows a particular product that you're working on, but they're like the only one, it seems, in the world that knows this software, maybe it's time to think outside of the box a little bit. Not to put them out of work, because I'd hate to do that. You can't integrate with business systems or platforms. A big one that I see a lot of, this happens so much in this industry, is Procore, for example. You know, they've been around for a little while now, and I think they're a great product, but they actually came to me and said, hey, you know Sage 100 Contractor, don't you? And I said, yep, I sure do. And they said, we can integrate with Sage 100 Contractor, right? And I said, yep, probably. You have to go through a stringent process with Sage. You have to become a Sage developer in order for that to happen. So what I get a lot of is these off-branded companies. They're great and they have their purpose, but they all say, yep, I totally integrate. I can do that. I can do that. What they don't realize is, like, say, for example, Sage 100 Contractor has a closed architecture on the back door. So they do not have access into the program. They cannot integrate with Sage 100 Contractor. So I run into that a lot. So I always say, prove it. I want to see it. I want to see it in action. You know, if you really integrate, I'd love to see it in action, just to make sure it really truly does integrate. So that's kind of our role within the technology division, is knowing all the technologies. You know, we're not a master of any, you know, we do a lot of implementations for our clients. And then we also take over their accounting after that. So that, you know, it's kind of like having the car dealership driving the car for the client. But it's our goal to make sure that we're offering the right technology for that client. What's the best solution for that client? That's really what it's about. You know, and things like you outgrow software. It's just inevitable. You really outgrow software. It just happens naturally. You know, you start out in Quickbooks desktop even, which is a great program, but it's on-prem. How are you going to host it? Now you need to move to the cloud because of COVID. How are your people going to access that? So if you're kind of asking yourself some of these questions, it's probably time to chat, you know, just to say, okay, let's do a technology review. If nothing else, let's just kind of look over your technology, see what you've got, maybe make some recommendations. That doesn't mean that you have to change or you have to move, because I get it. Not everybody loves change as much as I do. And I really love change, but not everybody does. And I totally understand that. And so does the team at UHY. You know, that we take baby steps. We slowly integrate things. We don't just rush off the cliff and go, well, good luck, guys. You know, maybe use your Etch-a-Sketch as an umbrella to get down off that cliff, you know, but it's just about listening to the client and their needs and making sure that they have the best solution in place. Yeah. So there's a lot of technology out there. It's very useful and convoluted. So it's kind of our job to know what are the best recommendations based on your situation. Okay, I just loved this graphic. It was just so funny. It made me laugh. Thinking back to the Golden Gate Bridge for just a second and talking about that safety net. You know, what do you have a safety net? Are you thinking about this? Like, what are you going to do to make sure that your company survives this pandemic? And I know that construction did okay, but guess what? We're in 2021 now. We have to think differently. We are different. We came out on the other side of 2020 different. And I agree with John. We're not going back, right? You know, we just got to move forward. So I hope today we've given you enough information to provide some inspiration for this coming year. I hope and I wish that it's a better year for everybody. I know that 2020 was hard. And I think that it will be a great year if we just continue to strive forward and lean on each other when we need to. John, do you have anything else to add?
So I am definitely on the same page as Misty. The pandemic of 2020 changed the way business gets done. It really has. Embracing technology is what successful companies did to make it through this past year. If you think you can go back to how things used to be done, you're really kidding yourself. Be honest about your business and move forward with technology and embrace it. And that will not only make your business stay alive, but it will allow it to thrive. And that's really important. So I personally want to say thank you for your time today. Misty, please wrap us up.
All right, will do. Okay, so I just wanted to share with how can you find out more about UHY CAAS on the web. You can find out there's a couple links in this, which I understand will be a PDF sent out to everybody. You can also just Google UHY CAAS and we come up. So you can see, you know, what we're about, how we work. We also have a LinkedIn page that you guys are welcome to like, and I would even, you know, say kudos for liking our UHY CAAS page. That's important to us. And then UHY Construction, you know, again, John Gallo is our fearless leader with the construction division at UHY. And we have a webpage for that, of course, also. But, you know, our contact information will be on here. If you guys have any questions, you just need to chat to somebody, because I'm always convinced that I have therapists written on me somewhere. I just don't know where it is. People follow me around and tell me stuff that I just don't need to know, but I'm grateful to listen, always grateful to listen, you know. So if you're just in a panic and go, I just don't know what the next step is, please reach out to us. That's what I ask of you. And
yeah, I'd appreciate it if you could check out our web pages, because our marketing department does a really nice job.
They do, don't they?
And they recently told me that our construction page is one of the highest dinged. I don't know that technology. Misty's much more technical than I am, but visited more than our other pages, and that's that makes me feel good.
Something.
So
Yeah.
Please check it out. You have our contact information, mine and Misty's. Shoot us an email if you have any questions. You know, we'd love to talk to you. Really appreciate your time today.
Yes, thank you so much. And my favorite saying is always carpe diem. Seize the day, my friends. Go out there and make it happen, right? So I think that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.